And welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Born to Talk About Sports. I am your host, Steve Bourne. And today I'm going to just briefly talk about what we saw in the NFL on Super Wildcard Weekend. And then I'm going to get to more my rant, I guess, for this week. And that'll be on decade long contracts, well, decade plus long contracts in Major League Baseball. First, just go quickly back to what we saw in the NFL this weekend. I went 4-2 in my picks, not too bad. But I was right that Jacksonville would make it interesting. And after the first half, it didn't look like it. But the Chargers pulled a no-show in the second half, lost, and fired their defensive or offensive coordinator today. And my only other pick I got wrong was the Giants proved that the Vikings were pretenders and not contenders. Congrats to Brian Dable and Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. Congratulations, your trip is to go play the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, and yeah, Buffalo, Miami made that. Well, Buffalo basically helped Miami. Miami only got 3.39 yards I heard per play. Buffalo's defense was outstanding. Problem is Miami started average starting field position was almost midfield. If Buffalo and Cincinnati got some help from the refs. There on that 98-yard fumble recovery for what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. There was an illegal push in the back. Well, that drive should have Cincy should have had the ball at the 40, not a touchdown. But that being said, Bengals are Bengals make the trip to Buffalo, and the Jags make the trip to Kansas City, and then you've got Eagles and Giants, Niners and Cowboys. Quickly going over, I've got Eagles beating the Giants. I've got the Niners beating the Cowboys. I've got the Chiefs beating the Jags, and I'm going with my heart. But I think Buffalo, they're opening up a surprisingly 4.5 now. It's up to 5-point favorites. Since his offensive line is banged up, their left tackle just dislocated his kneecap. So I highly doubt he'll be available on Sunday at 3 o'clock. But I am picking Buffalo. I think since he covers the 5-point spread, but I think you're going to have Buffalo, Kansas City one more time, but this time in the neutral field, which is Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. So those are my picks, but let me go on my rant. We saw it for a few players this winter, in with Major League Baseball free agency, and this could be absolutely devastating to other teams. It's these decade 12, 10, 12, 11, 12, 13 year long contracts that are being given out to some guys who probably don't deserve it. Like like say Bogarts maybe with the Padres, but then you've got Rafael Devers. I'm sorry, no. He's he's good, very good, but he's not elite. I wouldn't put him first team. Put him the best third baseman in baseball. And then, of course, there was the ever-ending saga with Carlos Correa, originally with the who, who was the first team to do it? I think it was the Padres, then the Mets, um, and then he failing physical after physical because apparently doctors didn't like his surgically repaired ankle, so he ended up going back to Minnesota for only a 6-year deal. But these decade-long contracts, they're going to put other teams basically turning them into what Major League Baseball was. Let's face it, in the late '90s, early 2000s, when it was the same teams over and over again. Um, with pretty much it was the Yankees, Boston, the Mets. Hell, occasionally you'd get a surprise team, but it was like I said, it was always the same teams. Because once players started hitting free agency, you got these teams offering these big money deals, and other teams just they couldn't match. And just going quickly to say what Devers just signed his extension in Boston. That's pretty much what Bo Bichette's going to be looking for. Bo Bichette is a much better offensive player than Devers is. Um, Devers is much better defensive. I mean, let's face it, defensively, look over the last 2 years, Bo's the worst defensive shortstop in baseball. Almost 50 errors over the last 2 years. That's unacceptable. But again, it's been pointed out to me by friends that unfortunately, when you're looking to sign players, you look at their offensive numbers only, and defensive numbers mean very little until it comes back to bite you on the field. I like I said, these with the does anybody really see? Because the Jays have like three big young studs coming up with Manoah, Bo, and Vlad. Um, at most, I think they're only going to be able to sign two, and I think that's Vlad and Manoah because pitchers rarely get deals above 6, 7 years. Manoah's young enough that I think if you offer him a 7-year deal next year, that he'll have no problems. I mean, he's not arbitration eligible till after this year. Vlad just signed a 14.51 year deal, and Bo's going to arbitration. And Bo Bichette, if you see this, please, I know you're not going to see this, but please do not go to the arbitration hearing. You are not going to like what you hear. It will turn you bitter. Basically, it's what happened with Marcus Stroman. He was advised not to go to the arbitration hearing. He went. Couldn't believe basically his entire team rip him a new one to the arbitrator just so they can justify paying him less. It caused a rift with the team, and they end up having to trade him. Bo has, believe, 3 more years left till unrestricted free agency. I think the if they can't get a deal done by the end of next year, a big 7-8 year extension, that I think after the 2024 season they will have to trade him. They're not just going to let him walk and take the compensatory draft pick. For somebody of Bo's talents, he's led the league, led the American League in hits in 2 years in a row. You don't just get a draft pick for him. You actually get something that not just to replace him, but build more pieces. And it's not just the Jays in this situation. I'm going Jays because they're my hometown team, but other teams as well that say Minnesota gave Correa a 6-year deal, but they couldn't to come back. They couldn't have matched that 10, 11, 12-year deal. Byron Buxton, when he hits free agency next time, who knows what he's going to get if he can stay healthy. And then you've got you just have the other teams like Pittsburgh. Next time they develop a young stud, as soon as he hits free agency, he's going to sign a 10, 12-year deal. What Major League Baseball needs to do, I know they just signed a new CBA last year, but when this one is up in about, I think it's like 4 years, I think it was a 5-year CBA, they have to do what the NBA and the NHL have done and do term limits. NHL started getting ridiculous with the DiPietro 15-year and the Jeff Carter 11-year deal, and Kane and Tays 10-year deals that are expire at the end of this year. And it was getting out of hand. And tell me the last time a player ended a 10-year deal and it worked out all 10 years and the player put up consistent numbers for 10 years. It doesn't happen. Interesting part in the Devers deal is there is no trade clause. Once his 5 and 10 rights come in, either 10 years in the league or 5 years with the same team, that's essentially a no trade right there. But they can flip him. And I never saw the appeal of signing a guy to a decade-long contract. If he's 25, he'll be way past his prime, and you're still paying him the same amount he was when he was 26. Makes no sense to me. As you can tell, I'm totally against these decade-long deals. It's bad for baseball. It's bad for the sport. Just because now you're going to have albatrosses on your team for over 5-6 years once they start going south. And again, it's not good. It'll turn Major League Baseball into very few World Series contenders, and then you're going to have basically feeder systems, basically a second AAA um, system. And they say nobody wins with that. It's if it's the same. I mean, there's a reason why World Series ratings decline, and it's not just because the game, every World Series game ended at midnight 1 a.m. It's because it was the same teams. It was always the Yankees. It was always the Red Sox. Occasionally, you'd have a surprise team like the White Sox put in there, and then it became the Giants, the Cardinals, the Texas Rangers, the Philadelphia Phillies. It was again, you had the same National League teams that were spending money. I mean, the Cardinals are probably the exception because all they do is develop stars. But again, it's you got teams that just try to buy World Series, and like I said, that's not good. Major League Baseball will never get a salary cap. I'm done arguing that fact. But they need to have this offseason prove that term limits are the best thing for everybody, not just politicians, but for sports as well. Again, to summarize, for the NFL this weekend coming up, I've got Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly, and the Niners. I'm taking all four home teams. And Major League Baseball, please stop with these decade long contracts. You're killing your sport. Have a good day, and I'll see you next week.